Our guest, and I have 4 young ladies in the studio, 2 of which are going to be on the air. It's the first time I had 4 beautiful young ladies in the studio. Got to introduce Pixie. I love that name. Pixie Lareza. Got that right?
That's right.
President of Women in Business in Jacksonville?
Women business owners.
Okay. And I want to get your information in relation to how you're involved and what's going on with the women business owners. We also have an author, which I also rarely have an author because they're just talking about mystery books, and we are concerned about public information. And that is Jane Hight McMurray. You are the author of a book with a very interesting title. It's called Navigating the Lipstick Jungle, Go from Plain Jane to Getting What You Want, Need, and Deserve. Is there any more room on that book for anything else besides the title?
Oh, no, but I am excited to have written the book and am delighted to be here to share information that I think will help women in your area.
Now, you're going to be a guest at this event that is coming up on April, what was it?
April 2nd.
April 2nd, Women in Business Awards Owners event that you're going to be speaking to this group and giving them tips. With this book, what prompted you to write this book? And by the way, I appreciate, and I know the ladies and the business owners appreciate you coming in early to do different interviews with radio and television. What prompted you to write this book?
Well, thank you for asking that question. My background is in communication, and I taught at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and UNC Wilmington. When I started doing professional speaking, a lot of the people who hired me wanted to speak about communication for success. I had a meeting planner who asked me to do a program just for women, and I really put on my thinking cap about what were the skills that I could offer to women that would be the most important. And the program caught on fire. A lot of meeting planners in North Carolina started to hire me, and then I started to speak nationally, and people were hungry for more information. What I did basically in this program was I took information that works both for men and for women, but because women have challenges in the workplace that men don't have, I started to customize and add information for them. In addition, I had an awesome mother, grandmother to my daughter who is sitting with me today in the studio, and when my first daughter was born, I was overwhelmed with just all that I had to do, looking at my mother who was in the room with me, and I said, "Oh, Mom, I can never thank you enough for all that you've done." And I started to cry, and I said, "Mom, how can I ever thank you?" And she had these twinkling eyes, and she looked at me, and she said, "Just pass it on."
I'm going to quote something from your mother you said here, which I think is that she says to you, "The meek might inherit the earth, but it's not going to be happening in your lifetime."
Oh, she said that to me throughout my childhood.
I think that's phenomenal. Let's talk about, though, the concern, though, is women in the workplace. And let me state some facts here that has been sent to me on this release is that you run only 16 companies in the S&P 500. Fewer than 3% of the Fortune 1000 CEOs are women. Women exiting college are an average of 17 less than the male counterparts. This particular statistic, the others you'll eventually get to, but this statistic of women still earning less than their male counterparts doing the same cotton-picking job, there's an old Southern term, has always bothered me. Going back to my wife, who was in business for 40-some years before she retired, and I look at this, what I call the good old boy network. She was same level, way less in income, and that's still the story today. Why?
Well, I think women a lot of times don't, they impose their own glass ceiling, and the glass ceiling is already there. A lot of times women are taught not to ask for anything. They will go to someone's house, and their parents have, and their mothers have said, "Now don't ask for that cookie, wait until that cookie's been offered to you." Men are taught to be aggressive, go out there and tackle, go out there and get it. And women are socialized differently. So one of the things that my mother was very careful to say is you have to ask for what you want. And you do. You have to let other people know what it is that you want and what you're capable of doing. They cannot read your mind. You know, the word assume means to make an ass out of you and me.
Exactly.
People can't read your mind. They don't know what you're capable of doing. They don't know what it is you want or what you're willing to do. Women, sometimes it's good business for somebody to hire a woman at a less salary. I mean, if you're in business, you want to make money. If you can get somebody to agree to doing something for less, and sometimes women will say, "Well, I just want to help people. I just want to do something," and they need to eradicate that word. Just, I want to help people is fun. Not I just want to help them. I want to help in whatever service industry I'm in, and I also want to be compensated for it equitably. And a lot of times women don't look at what women don't know what their value is. So how can a woman find out what her value is if she's going into a job? Well, of course, one easy thing to do is ask other people who have similar jobs, but sometimes that's a very awkward thing to do. There's help on the internet. It's one of the most incredible inventions ever. There's so much information out there. There are two websites. One is called wageindicator.com and the other is called payscale.com. You can go to those websites. You can key in the type of job that you have or the job that you want. You can find out what the average salary is for that job in a particular location. And then when you go into the workplace and you're offered a job, and the person makes you a job offer, and that job sounds a little low, you can say, well, that sounds a little low. That's one of the phrases that I tell people to use.
Diplomatically honest.
Be diplomatically honest.
Okay.
And then to be quiet. A lot of times women are taught not to ever have any awkward moments, so women will keep talking. Silence is a wonderful tool. So you might say, well, that sounds a little bit low, and then zip it. Don't say anything.
Simple as that.
And then the other person, because silence is awkward, will say, well, what were you expecting? And then the person, you can say, well, I've done some research, and you'll be equipped with the facts. It's okay to ask for 20% more than what you read on these sites or what you've heard. It's not okay to ask for 200% more. But if you start out a little bit high, it gives you some room to negotiate. But a lot of times what women will do more often than men is they will accept whatever, oh, thank you so much, because as women we're taught to say thank you and to show gratitude. But
now, what about somebody who goes into the workplace as a young person and wants to grow within that business? Now, obviously, you're going to start at a low level.
Right.
Sometimes I see and hear stories about women who don't, number one, take themselves seriously, and number two, maybe take the job seriously. For example, take themselves seriously. If you want to grow in the business, just like men, you should dress for success. I'm assuming in your book you will mention a little bit of dressing for success. In other words, instead of the mini skirts, and obviously dependent on what the job is, maybe a more business-like suit if you're going out calling on businesses as a salesperson, et cetera. And I'm not being critical of mini skirts, et cetera. I'm saying job-appropriate attire. Am I on the right track? Am I off base?
Exactly. And I am not a dress for success coach, but I do talk about dress in the book. I approach dress as tools. Clothes are tools. And women, we have so many incredible fashion options. They're like costumes for what we want. And what I think women in business need to realize is that clothes are tools. And there's a psychology behind using them. And if you're smart, you use clothing as a tool, just like you use makeup as a tool. There is a time and a place to get what you want, need, and deserve. So I divide the workplace look into 4 different cultures. One is a very formal culture. Those are your banks, your legal industries, where you are expected to wear closed-toed shoes and dresses aren't above a certain length. When you go into a more modern culture, like your advertising, it's expected that you'll be a little trendier, a little sleeker.
Or your tech industry, for example, like your Facebook's, the Zuckerberg office, you can see how casual they are, just using that as an example.
Exactly, and that's your most casual. So
So they're the mini skirts and sometimes the shorts and sometimes even the flip-flops, although I'm not a fan of those, but sometimes those are all acceptable.
But they're all tools, and if you want to be able to connect with a particular person or particular audience, then you need to think about your clothing as a way to reach them. You know, our communication message is 93% nonverbal. That means only 7% of what we have to say when we're translating what we actually want, need, and deserve comes out initially by our non-words, by our appearance. Today, when I walked into your studio, you probably drew some conclusions about me just by looking at my hair, by my dress, by my earrings, by my shoes, all those things. You weren't processing it, but subliminally you were. You were drawing conclusions about me. You were thinking about what